see you with the liquor store, leaving with the cheapest can of beer on the shelf. You ain't living on the street, but you barely making rent. Not related because I'm struggling myself. I see you smile at the clerk when you fumble through your purse. I just wish I had a little more to help. I imagine where you're living, how you feeling, what you loving, who you'll be if you can make it out your hell. I see you at the bus stop, looking at the sidewalk, smoking half a cigarette, waiting for a ride. Kind of limp when you walk and look away when you talk your shit.
Good evening, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're going to talk about some principal basics of the PMA tonight. We're going to hang out and listen to Tom McDonald here first for a few minutes, because this is an important subject, so we're going to give people a chance to hop on. So enjoy my music, please, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Just hang out, guys. Please.
I see you sitting on the front porch playing with a radio, looking to the sky. Probably living in that house all alone these days, trying to find a better way to pass time. Got a wheelchair.
Like I said, I hope everybody's having a good day.
Probably hate it because it isn't getting used anymore, and you only ever build it for your wife. Everywhere that I walk, see you on the sidewalk, begging for a little loose change for some dough. Probably got a mama and a papa spending everything they make, trying to clean you up enough to take you home. Used to have a good job, used to get good grades, used to have big dreams, and you lost hope. When your girlfriend died, giving birth to your son, you're the father that'll probably never know. Everybody has a tale that they're too afraid to tell. You can see it in the cracks in their hands. They can cover it with smiles if you walk a couple miles in their shoes, and you'll know where they stand. Everyone who really lived had to climb out of a ditch they were in before they found the right path. If you want to know the truth about what we've been going through, then try to put your phone away so you can act. We've all got problems and we all feel alone. We've all been haunted by the secrets we hold.
Dave, Darren, Junior, Alex, Steve, Brian, Joe, how's everybody doing? Hugh Blanche, Pam Bonet, Johnny, Roger. we gotta switch it up there, Johnny.
Shopping malls and streetcars, we are. It's time to tell them just who we are.
Okay. Hoping everybody's having a good day, like I said. Enjoying life, living life, loving life. The biggest problem we have today in regards to all the corruption and everything is that everybody's involved in this economical system. And that economical system is a private membership association. And if you ask the people of the Federal Reserve, the board members of the Federal Reserve, they will tell you that's why they are untouchable, is because they are themselves a private member association. And so that's why it's so important to establish your own private member association. You have to clarify that on your side of the record as well. See, they've established that on the public side of the record. They have a private membership association. They announce it publicly. They don't give the full details because those are their regulations. Okay? The regulations that we deal with today are regulations passed down by the Treasury, the United States Corporation. And that's all in regards to the comptroller of currency. This is why it's so important, again, like I said, to establish your association. The First Amendment right, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of a religion. Establishment is an association, okay? Your association should be drawn up in an ecclesiastical format. It doesn't have to be particularly religious or denote any kind of secular or religious denomination, but it should have an ecclesiastical format in peace and love. And so we're going to go ahead and get started here in regards to the notice of foreign state status. Because as a private member association, you have the right, just like any nation, to establish yourself as a private entity, even on your own individual basis, even on your own oneness basis. And this is where I urge people to read up on a thing called the Calvo Doctrine. C-A-L-V-O. Calvo Doctrine. This particular doctrine speaks in regards to the size of a particular jurisdiction. And this is where I want to point it out is a private membership association can be one member. Okay? And they have just as much jurisdiction in their private right as any other entity, period. Any other nation, any other bank, any other business, any other corporation, no matter what jurisdiction they are in, they have just as much power of right, if not more so. When it comes to the fictional corporations, an independent live being has more jurisdictional powers than any fictional corporation, period. So I myself, as one individual man, live being, has more jurisdictional powers than the entire United States corporation put together. I have more jurisdictional power than the UN. I have more jurisdictional power than the IMF. Comprehend this. That's the importance of a private member association. And like I said, we need to establish that in an order of peace and love. Under an ecclesiastical format. We're not coming to bring forth any kind of harm or detriment. We just want to balance. So when it comes to the people that have been enforcing all this corruption, we don't want to be detrimental to them. We want to fix the corruption. There's a difference. So think about this stuff. And we're going to go ahead and get into this. I posted my own notice of foreign state status that I entered into my case a few years back. And again, comprehend this. This is in regards to a private member association. And therefore, it's a private document. The one I got posted was actually filed into their case, which is, again, is still just another private member association. But I filed it into their case, and therefore it resides in their case, and they've gotten notice. Okay, that particular jurisdiction has notice. Notice to principal is notice to agent. It should follow through all jurisdictions by operation of law, period, plain and simple. However, I still need to establish my own documentation that I carry on me as a matter of diplomatic channels of notice, okay? In regards to when they bring a case against myself, they're supposed to follow Code of Federal Regulations, Title 22, Section 93.1, where they're supposed to follow diplomatic channels of notice, where they're supposed to notify the United States Department of State that they filed a claim against a United States citizen. So in my PMA, I have to do the same thing. That's why I carry, or I don't have mine established yet, but when I do, it will be carried on me. I will have my copy on me. It will be sealed in an envelope so that anybody needs to force the issue beyond my verbal statement. In beginning was word. So anybody that needs to enforce anything beyond my verbal statement has one of two options. They either open the document, open the envelope, and assert acceptance through contract, or they ignore it and trespass my rights on an international level. Because they only have a presumption. And if I defeat that presumption verbally simply by telling them I am not a member of their association, that's all it takes. They have been noticed. Now, if they don't want to take that or like wording, which is what my PMA would be constructed as, like wording to clarify all points, but simply said without any ambiguous terms and conditions added onto it, I am not a member of your private association. And therefore, if they open it, they're contracting, they're accepting that I'm offering information above and beyond that on a contractual basis. And it's printed right on, it'll be printed right on the envelope. Private documents. Fee assessed for viewing. Fee is, and this is why it's so important to establish this again, is because that's what they're using against us. The Federal Reserve board members will tell you themselves they are untouchable because they are private member association. So let's get into this. When you do your private, again, when you look back on this, I posted my own foreign status statement here, and it's got a heading for the courts. When you do your own private member association statement like this, it would have your own private member association heading rather than to a court. And it says, we're just going to start off with notice of foreign state status. I, Keith, dwell near non-domestic address, and then it had the address that I was at that time. Number 2, Hudson, Iowa, one of the states in the Union, being first duly sworn, state as follows. And realize this is not done grammatically correct. I don't believe there are some errors. This is back again when I was doing my initial research and just beginning to learn this stuff. So, mind you, don't use this. Use the information within to construct your own. I, Keith, a living man, is the executor of the estate of Keith Orland Little. And that's the name that appears on the Social Security card. If yours is in upper and lower case and only uses an initial, blah, 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 exactly like it is on the Social Security card. Decedent, and then you see it's in parentheses, decedent who died on 8/20 of 1984. 8/20 of 1984 was my 18th birthday. And so when I became an adult, when I attained the age of majority, I was no longer a minor child. I was no longer an infant. I was no longer a juvenile. I became an adult. And therefore, that account became a decedent account. In other words, it was activated. And that was only because I filed for a Social Security number. If I'd instead filed documentation for full settlement and closure of any and all debts possible, or registered on the as public or private debts against this account for full closure to collapse the trust, and then presented my own PMA, that would have been perfectly legit. I have every right to collapse the trust as a beneficiary. I'm a named beneficiary. And I can't remember Sauter versus Vautier or something like that. Saunders versus Vautier. Saunders versus Vautier. I can't remember when the case was, but it specifically deals with trusts and beneficiaries' right to rescind or collapse the trust. So, think about that and how important it is to know who you are as opposed to the person. And at the time of death, which was upon I, Keith, reached 18 years of age, also known as the age of majority. And as you've heard in some of my recent comments, I prefer now to use, instead of age of majority, I use age of discretion. I am now of the age to be able to discern. I am not of an age that a majority has discerned I am now capable of. I am at an age now that my mom and dad have discerned I am capable of, and that was by their choice. At age of 18, I was, okay, you're an adult. Go live your adult life. Now, if they decided that I was of age of discretion to discern my own capabilities at, say, the age of 14, and I thought I was capable of that as well, the rest of society may not agree with that, but as private member associations, it's none of their fucking business. See, as a private member association, it's none of their fucking business to even know when you were born. It's none of their fucking business to know how old you are. It's none of their fucking business to know what education you have. It's none of their fucking business unless they care to contract, because that's what they are. They're a contracting venue, and they use the information for commercial purposes. That's it. Pure and simple. And if they want that information from myself from now on, by God, it's going to cost them a lot of Federal fucking Reserve notes. And we're going to get into the very first U.S. code that I put in here in regards to the gold clause. And then we'll talk about that. So let's get going. So, the decedent's dwelling was Black Hawk County in the state of Iowa, and the decedent has dwelled in the state of Iowa for at least 18 years prior to the death, and was not a resident of any other state of the United States at the time of death. And I don't care if they try to qualify you as a resident anywhere. At this point in life, according to the age of majority, a minor can't be a resident. Okay? Comprehend that. A minor is not allowed to contract, and that's why they have to have a parent do all the signing for them. That's why you have to file for a Social Security application, or file a Social Security application at the age of 18 to get a card, so you can now be a card holder. And now you're a card holder of that private member association for commercial purposes, conducting the transmitting activities of a transmitting utility known as a person created by the United States and the states as a dual citizen under the 14th Amendment. For nothing but economic substance. It's all commercial purposes, every last bit of it, including all the insurance. Every U.S. code is nothing but an economic substance for commercial purposes, for military insurances. Pure and simple. That's it. The decedent did not claim any state of domicile. I couldn't. I wasn't of age yet. I hate this. I've got chat windows keep opening up and cover up what I'm trying to read here. Other than the state of Iowa, on any instrument, notice it says instrument. Instrument is a financial, is a document that was signed and completed into a certain format that created a economic instrument, a financial instrument, a debt instrument. Okay? It offset some ledger somewhere. It created a debt. Every signature creates a debt. On any instrument or will executed within 2 years prior to death. Of course, it's impossible. Again, if as a minor, you can't enter into contracts. Entering into a contract is the creation of an instrument. Therefore, you couldn't actually sign an instrument. Period. Plain and simple. At the time of death, the decedent possessed the birth bond receipt certificate number, and then I put the receipt number, and that's a receipt number. Okay? Notice what they call it. It's a receipt number. And Social Security number, an account number, and did not have a driver license. At the time of 18, I hadn't gotten a driver license. I might have gotten a permit, but I didn't get a driver license. Okay? And then here we'll, real quick, before I mention this U.S. code that I want to talk about, why do you suppose we mentioned that I did not have a driver's license at that time? Well, I'll tell you, I don't know how they do it nowadays. I do know that they changed it within the time that from the time that I first started applying for a driver's license until the last time I got my driver's license. And that is, whenever I went to get a driver's license, when my first driver's license on, until a certain point, they always asked me for my Social Security number. I provided a Social Security card for identification. That's one of the documents they asked for, identification. And so when I provided that, that's an attachment. It's a financial attachment. They attach to the bond through the driver's license. And like I explained in the last couple of my videos, that driver's license is fraud. The certification is false unless you've signed a statement under penalty of perjury that you commit to the elements and terms and conditions within the lease agreement, which includes the registration, which is considered an acquisition, and therefore you receive a certificate of title, and then are told that you're required to get a driver license to finalize the lease. And in that driver license, you're supposed to provide a statement under penalty of perjury that you're going to perform trade or business. That's one of the terms and conditions. And if you're not involved in trade or business, which is a function of a public office, then you're not performing commerce, period. So think about this stuff, people. That's why we mentioned the driver's license in here. I didn't have a driver's license. Why? Because I wasn't required to. Well, that's because you're a minor. Well, and that's what tells you that the driver's license is considered a contract basis. So when we figure out that it's actually a series of transactions, it's just getting a driver's license is just one transaction of a series of transactions. And then all of a sudden we realize, wait a minute, what have I been doing? I've been performing trade or business. So think about it. So now we're going to get into, says, I, Keith, notice officials of 31 U.S. Code, Section 5118. And it says to insure. And when we look at that, this is in regards to your lawful coin, the Commerce Clause in the Constitution and all that. And here is the U.S. Code. This is the uniform of that in the Constitution. We see it in the Uniform Code, and it says 31 U.S. Code 5118, gold clauses and consent to sue. A, in this section, gold clause means a provision in or related to an obligation alleging to give the obligee a right to require payment in. And the first one, it says gold clause is highlighted, blue underlined, highlighted. And when we click on it, it says gold clause. And it says the first part that I just read there, and then it continues on with the A and B sections. And so when we go back and we look at this A and B section, it says A, gold. Okay. Gold clause means I hold an obligation as the obligee as a right to require payment in gold. I hold the United States to that obligation. Okay? Because I'm the obligee. I'm the one they owe. I don't owe them. That's where the true debt is. It says a particular, then we go on to B, and it says a particular United States coin or currency. And this is something I want to point out. And in this particular one, it says United States. And most of us are familiar with the term United States being conjoined. But here they separate it visually by showing you that United States is in black ink. And then it only blue underline highlights states. And what that's doing is telling you there's a link. And so when we follow that link and it says only states rather than United States, we pop this window open, it says state, And it starts out with this: redesign beginning upon completion of prior program. What's that got to do with the state? And then it goes on, and this is why you have to follow these links and read these. And it goes on and on and on. It says all this stuff until it finally gets down to the bottom. It says inclusion of District of Columbia and territories. For purposes of this subsection, the term state has the same meaning as in Section 3A3 of the Federal Deposit Insurance Act. Let me see if we can find this. I think I've got it. Nope, I don't have it, and I don't want to waste too much time, but that's the one that you want to look at and find out what they're calling the state in regards to United States, and then only blue underline highlighting the state part of it. And this is where you got to clarify things. So when we go back here and we look at this gold clause, it goes on to say C, United States money measured in gold or a particular United States coin or currency. And we see what they're doing there is they're mixing currency and money. And we have to come to find out what that term money is in comparison to the word currency. They don't have that highlighted blue line here, so maybe somebody can research that and find out what the difference is. But then it goes on to number 2 and it says public debt obligation. Public debt obligation means a domestic obligation issued or guaranteed by the United States government to repay money or interest. Means a domestic obligation issued or guaranteed. Full faith and credit is the guarantee by the United States government, and that's the Commerce Clause, to repay money or interest. They issued a birth certificate, a bond, and that's the first thing that's noted in Title 18 of the United States Code 8, where it states securities and other obligations of the United States, all bonds. And so when they issued that birth certificate, they issued an obligation which they guaranteed to repay through money or interest. And that money is denoted as gold coin. Gold or United States coin or currency. Well, what's the United States? Are they misconstruing things here? Think about this stuff, people. And this is why it's so important to establish your own private membership association. If this is their private membership association and this is what they're doing is screwing you through it, why would you want to be a member of their private membership association? Doesn't make sense to me. Not one bit. Because that's exactly what they are. They're a private membership association. You have to be a public official or contracted somehow to perform trade or business, which is a function of public office. You don't have to be a part. You don't have to be a part of that public office, but you have to contract or be a part of that public office. And if I'm not contracting with a public entity of any sort, particularly the Social Security Administration, if I haven't filed an application for an old age pension fund, which is a contract for the funds, and you'll read another post in there about the funds and what that's all about. read back a few posts here on my page and see what fund is all about, and gives you the source and everything. It's all about insurance, every last bit of it. And what is the Social Security Administration? Insurance. Who's providing the funds? Federal Reserve through the IMF. Comptroller of Currency through the Treasury, U.S. Department of State. Title 31 of the United States Code, Section 1321, trusts and estates. You'll see under section 73, subsection 73, you'll see that the U.S. Department of State is has the fiduciary assignment and obligation of estates of decedents and trust funds. And anytime we see that word fund, that's what it is. It's an insurance fund. Plain and simple. So think about this stuff and realize it's important to separate yourself from the state and clarify the differences, and do so in peace and love. Again, like I said, I don't want to make this a tremendously long video. I'm going to get on to a private membership association call, and I will talk to everybody next time. In the meantime, like I said, I posted this notice of foreign state status a few posts down on my Facebook page. Go ahead and take a peek at it. And again, it's not something that you use yourself. It's something that's got information that you can research and use the information. The format here is simply something I used when I was battling a case of my own a few years back, and I entered it directly into the case. This is not what you want to do with a private document. You want to keep it in a private packet with the rest of your private membership association documents, declaring your diplomatic status and immunities and all of that. And again, we'll go over those other parts of your private membership association as time goes on. I just wanted to put this out as a tickler to get you guys researching. It'll be a while before I put another video out in regards to PMAs. Like I said, I'm still establishing my own, but this will give you guys a chance to do your own research and maybe question things and get some answers that will help guide you in a more proper direction. Because you can't go through this stumbling and asking what the process is. I can't tell you. You have to learn it for yourself. All I can do is put information out there and tell you, don't use this format. This is not a format for you to use. This is something I used according to my situation years ago. You have to reestablish or establish what you are, who you are now. So think about this and know that I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. God bless. Have a great day.